What's going on, everyone? I am doing a video here of this 2006 Honda Ridgeline. Give you a good idea of what it is you'd be looking at if you are to purchase this vehicle. I'll try to give you the basics real quick and then get into the details as we go along. So yeah, it's a 2006 Honda Ridgeline. I purchased this vehicle probably 4 years ago now or so, 3, 4, right, 4 years ago, with 178,000 miles. I purchased it from a salvage auction, as I've purchased probably 20 vehicles over the years. I'll buy them for personal vehicles, fix them up, kind of a hobby, and drive them for a while. And if I need something new, I go get something else, and that's what I did. And so now I'm looking to sell this one. So, like I said, 2006. Now it's got just under 200,000 miles on it. And so, as you can see, I'm kind of a car nut, and I've worked as a detailer in the past and kind of an amateur mechanic for most of my life. So I have gone through a lot of this vehicle. Same time, it is, 17-year-old vehicle, 18-year-old vehicle, something like that. So, it's not brand new, but a lot of it's been gone through. The original, well, let me give you a peek at the inside here. The original crash, although wasn't too much of a crash, because if you'd like pictures, I can get them to you, but this front end here, the bumper cover was removed from it, and then underneath it looked like it had it had damage to the engine subframe. And that subframe, so my impression was maybe somebody ran it into a ditch or did something and bottomed out the vehicle and bent that subframe. So I had a mechanic go ahead and replace that subframe with a used, good condition one. They replaced all the engine mounts on it, and so after that, it ran great. And he went through and serviced a lot of it. He replaced the radiator on it. If you know anything about these vehicles, there's a issue with the radiator fittings failing and potentially causing transmission issues with I believe, the transmission cooler. I can't recall the specifics right now, but had that radiator replaced. Also did a lot of other maintenance things. I'll list those in the description. But yeah, this thing has been pretty darn good for me. I've taken it across over out to Colorado several times, and up to Iowa, I think, maybe once or twice. And it's been just kind of a commuter vehicle for me on the side as needed. I've generally had another car most of the time, as well as this. So otherwise, it's beyond that duty. It's just been kind of like an around the house DIY project vehicle, which it works great at. As you can tell, this thing is super clean. I've gone through and actually paint corrected the entire thing, and I've done a ceramic coating, two coats of ceramic coating actually on the entire thing, trim, glass, paint, and that has really helped. This paint is holding up really well. I mean, it's got imperfections, that's for sure. I think it's had a little minor paint work on spots here and there. And then to bring it to the other damage that was with the vehicle, it did have just a little hit up into this fender, and it went into that door. And so I found a replacement from a salvage yard in the same color, and you can tell on this one here, it does have just a slight different shade, but other than that, the ceramic coating and everything, I mean, this thing beads water wonderfully. That was done very recently. In bed storage. It's got a full size wheel and tire, and I've just added this jack and tire iron that way, so it's a little more beefy than the original, I guess. That'll go with the truck if you like it. But yeah, it's just been great for a little around the town, or kind of a DIY truck. I added that rear camera recently. All the underbody, you'll see a lot. If you look at the pictures underneath, you'll see this. This is a Rust-Oleum rusty metal primer, and this just does really good for rust protection. So you might see that underneath the vehicle. And this I did just a quick patch job on that, cut out most of the rust that was accumulating there, did some rust reformer, and then filled that in a little bit. So that should be good for a while. At least under here you can see where this is the worst of where rust is. So that's the worst of it. I've gone through, I kind of knocked away the worst of it. This was this spring, I think it was. But I've gone through the whole underside pretty much with the wire wheel. Again, this is the worst of it. Through the rest of it's not too bad. But I went through with wire brush and did a combination of rust reformer, rusty metal primer, and undercoating. You can see that black undercoating right there. And so it's pretty well sealed up. I mean, if you're running it in the winter time around here in the Midwest, it'll rust some over time. But it's gone through and had the recall done. If you can Google that about the recall on the gas tank straps. They had an issue where they would rust if the subframe had rust on it. It passed that fine. They add some extra structural bracing to it. Now it's in good shape. So yeah, outside, before we get to that inside, it's in good shape. I mean, for the most part. That front bumper, sometimes those bumpers fade different shades. But for a 20-some-year-old, or not 20, I guess, 18-year-old truck, it's in great shape. Yep. Trim is held up pretty well, and with that ceramic coating, it really adds some longevity. Now the interior, pretty good shape as well. I've gone through and cleaned this thing super well. The last owner, I think, was a bit of a slob. It did look like they had a lot of maintenance records. Briefly on the Carfax, the original, I must be about third or fourth owner is all. The first, there's a lot of service records from the dealer. And for the first, I think it was about 120,000 miles, maybe 140. Somewhere around 120, 140, it looked like it changed ownership. And I think that person was kind of a slob, but it looked like they had a lot of service records. I think they had like a service warranty plan based on the Carfax. But yeah, I've gone through and cleaned this thing pretty well. The headliner was coming down. You can see it's not an absolute professional job. There's got some spots here and there, but this thing will hold up for a long time. It's glued in there really well. That is squeaky. A little squeaky there. It's got the Bluetooth added. A pretty decent quality JVC receiver with Apple CarPlay. And it's got kicker, speakers, pretty decent quality. I think we paid like $200 probably 3 years ago at least, and then I added sound deadening to each one of the doors up behind the door, so the doors feel more solid probably than what a stock one would. When I did the headliner, I added sound deadening to the entire headliner, so it's a pretty quiet riding little pickup or truck, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, most of this stuff's clean. Just about everything works on it, actually. Can hear that. It sounds solid. Every now and then there's a couple of these toggle switches. This headlight switch is a little funky. It seems like it's actually gotten better over time, but it'll kind of want to click the parking lights on without kick parking lights on, but not a big issue. But yeah. Alright, so I got cut off on that video there, but I wanted to point out one thing. We do have on this seat belt, we've got a little bit of fraying on the edge here, right as it goes across. Other than that, I want to give you a quick view of how it drives here. It's just kind of as you'd expect. It just drives smooth and everything works here. You can see the Apple CarPlay. But we'll just do a little loop around and let you hear and see how it drives. Kick on the AC here. But yeah, it drives great. I might kick back on here in just a minute when we get to a highway, although here we've got just a little room. So you can hear that engine run. This thing hasn't used a drop of oil, I don't think, since I've owned it. Oil has been changed every 5,000 miles. Synthetic or synthetic blend oil. But yeah, we'll see. I might kick back on here once we get on the highways so you can see that, but check back in a minute. Okay, we're going to jump on the highway here. And I'm going to give it some gas here for you. Run strong and smooth, as you would expect. I believe I mentioned in the description that tires are a little bit old, but they are in good shape with the exception of one. One has an older date code, so you could either try to replace that one with a closer matching one, or you just replace all 4 tires. Depend what you're doing with the vehicle, I guess, on what you do there. But yeah, merged on here, and we'll see. Get it up to speed a little bit. Nice and easy cruiser, very comfortable on the highway. That is for sure. Alright, so I'll close this out here. Let me know if you have any questions. Hope this gave you a good overview of what to expect here with this vehicle. Yeah. Let me know, and I hope to talk to you all soon.